Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Moving the Goalpost. I'm Nick DiMartino. That's Tom Albano. We have a lot to get to today. Well, first, you can follow us across social media at MTGP. This podcast at MTGPETB. You can follow the Empty the Bench Network across social media at ETB Network. You can follow me on Twitter at Nick DiMart, Tom at Thomas J Albano. I think I got that right. Yep. And you can follow Johnny at Montalbano NY. And you can watch all Empty the Bench shows on youtube.com/ETB Network. And you can listen to this show wherever you get your podcasts. And
except for this week,
to like and subscribe.
I said except for this week with the audio because
you're right, except for this week. Because like Shannon Sharp, we're going live. So
we'll do it live.
We'll do it live, yes. So, Tom, how are you doing today?
I'm doing okay. Yep, filling in here for Johnny Montalbano.
Yeah, it's a Johnny free show. It
is a Johnny free show. Usually I'm behind the camera helping out with NCGP. Now I'm going to be in front of the camera for today.
Exactly. So, there's a lot to get to with the national championship game and everything. UConn versus Michigan. I was surprised at how this game went because usually UConn stays in games because of how well they play. But for the most part, I actually think they were in the game as long as they were because of how bad Michigan was. And I think this was not like it was entertaining because it was close, but it was not a good game. It was not it wasn't, neither team really played all that well, I thought.
I mean, the thing is you want a close game with a national championship. And the concern that I had coming into this game was that Michigan had been playing so well throughout this whole tournament as the dominating one seed that they were. My concern was that, you mentioned it, Ben mentioned it on Lounge the night before, that was this going to be just a one-sided game? And I kind of was holding my hopes that, Dan Hurley's squad would be able to provide a solid defense and a solid game. And they managed to, like I said, like you were saying, I don't know if solid's going to be the right word, but they went tit for tat with them. They went toe for toe and they kept themselves in the game, even to the final minutes. Like I had turned away at one point because Lounge was starting and the game didn't look good. And then all of a sudden it was like about a minute left and they were only down by 6.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's a few things. Michigan was up until this point definitely the most dominant team. I mean, they just in the tournament, they went 2 games in a row where they beat Tennessee by 33 points and they beat Arizona by 18 points. So that wasn't even really accurate. Like they really blew them out. It was really more like a 30-point game. Arizona just scored a bunch of points in garbage time. Neither of those games were close. Arizona was a 1 seed. Just think about this. How many teams could have blown out a team like Arizona the way that they did? Like Michigan's probably the only one. So going into this game, Michigan was the most dominant. But part of the reason Michigan was so dominant is because they were shooting well. And if there's anything I can teach you about college basketball teams is that they're not consistent shooting well. Like no high volume 3-point shooting team doesn't have off nights. It's not like the NBA where you have the Golden State Warriors. I mean, these are college kids, so they're going to be off some nights. And Michigan couldn't hit water if they fell off a boat last night. I mean, they went 9 for 33. They were absolutely I'm sorry, that was UConn. They went 2 for 15 from 3. They were absolutely awful.
The threes on both sides. The amount of threes that were being made, it was disappointing. The 3 shots were just not landing. As far as star players are concerned, it had to be Morez Johnson, who put up a double-double for Michigan, 12 points, 10 rebounds, a couple of blocks added in. I believe Sadao was 1 block away from having, what do they call it, the quintuple single, with at least 1 in every single category. That's what Mara got. Mara got that's quintuple single.
Yeah.
Block, a steal, an assist, 4 rebounds, and 8 points.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the way, I mean, now I also know that like neither team was 100% healthy. Solo Ball was not totally healthy, and Lendeborg was not totally healthy. And overall, I think that ended up helping UConn more than it helped Michigan. But the truth is, Lendeborg wasn't totally healthy against Arizona either. He hardly played in the second half against them, and they still destroyed them in the second half, even worse than they did in the first half. So I didn't put that much stock into it. The other thing is that like UConn easily could have won this game if they were a little bit smarter. The problem with UConn is that they just relentlessly fouled Michigan every time they got the ball. I mean, UConn had 22 fouls for the game. Maybe if they fouled a little less and played a little actual defense, maybe they would have had a chance to actually win that game.
Mm-hmm. And I'm just looking at the free throw numbers. Michigan was 25 for 28 in terms of free throws. UConn was 12 for 16. Michigan, I think, missed one late in the game. But UConn, I forget who it was that was up at the line. Didn't somebody miss both towards the end?
Yes.
And that's something that I always preach on, when it comes to just the sport of basketball. You got to make your free throws.
That's got to be the most frustrating thing in like if you're a basketball coach.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it's on the level of, if I were to put it in football terms, a delay of game. Like a delay of game.
Some crap that just can't happen.
It's bullshit. That just can't happen. Like that's the same thing with missed foul shots. Like that's got to drive me crazy. That's why I always find it like so incredible when you have like NBA players, professional basketball players that just can't make foul shots. Like this is the easiest part of the game. It's literally called a free throw. Like that's what a foul shot is. Like, and you have NBA players that can't do it. I mean, that has to be the most frustrating thing if you're a coach, or if that was my team. I actually had Michigan covering. UConn ended up covering, depending on what you got the line at. The line it teetered between 6.5 and 7.5. I don't think anybody really got it at 5.5. So I'm pretty sure UConn covered for pretty much everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You were good if you had Michigan covering the first half, but
but eventually the UConn stormed back, and you know what? I was pretty happy because I did say that I had the feeling that UConn was at least going to pull the cover.
Yeah, and look, UConn is the thing with UConn is that they're a relentless team that stays in games that they often have no business being in. They had no business being in that game against Duke. They just had no business winning that game, but they did, because that's what UConn is. They are just a relentless team, and they figure out a way to win games or stay in games that they really just shouldn't be.
Pretty much, yeah. Credit to Michigan, though, because, and I know we talked about, I think it was the week before, so we were talking about 1 seeds, and we're talking about disappointments and the whole idea of Florida versus Duke. But if there is, I mean, it's obvious to say Michigan was the best 1 seed because they're the ones who obviously won the whole thing. But like you mentioned before, when you're talking about performances, Duke made it to the Elite Eight, but they struggled on the road just to get there. Michigan flat out dominated just about every team until they got to the national championship. Even with Arizona, Nate Miller, the newest member of the ETB family, last night on Lounge, was talking about, if you were looking at the way the Michigan-Arizona game went, where one team beat up on the other one badly early on, it was fine the rest of the way, and then the garbage time points, he said he would have had it the other way, where Arizona did that to Michigan. Yeah. And I felt the same. I was surprised by how Michigan did, but you know what? I mean, credit to them. Michigan played the way that they needed to play as a 1 seed, the way you needed to play in order to win a national championship. And hey, they may not have gotten the conference title. They may have blown it in the conference championship, but you know what? They got the national championship, so they got the last laugh on Purdue.
I mean, yeah, who cares about the conference championships? Like, they don't really mean anything in basketball. The committee doesn't even take them into account. Like, they don't matter that much.
It's funny. They matter so much more on the mid-major level because of the automatic berth. But if you're talking about the, in words that you love, Power 5 conferences, in those conferences,
Now it's Power 4, really. Well,
yeah, that's true. But the conference, within the power conferences, a conference championship means nothing. Just because most of those teams, if you have a really good season and you're in a power conference, you're going to the national championship. You're going to March Madness.
And also, it's just not like I think they matter a lot more in football than they do in basketball. I mean, I think that they the thing with conference championship games is that the reason that the committee doesn't put that much stock into them is because it's not the best gauge of evaluating teams. Like, what the committee is trying to do is evaluate who the best teams are, and it doesn't really prove that much that you win your conference. Like, Arkansas won the SEC tournament. Nobody would argue that Arkansas was the best team in the SEC this year. Yeah. Like, nobody would make that argument. The only time it would matter for a team in a Power 5 conference would be if they're a bubble team. But the bubble teams rarely ever win their conference if they're in a Power 5 conference, because like they probably wouldn't be a bubble team. Like like if Auburn had won the SEC, like it would be a big deal. But
right,
that wasn't going to happen for the way Auburn.
If you somehow have a Cinderella in the conference championship,
which you never really see the Cinderella in the conference championship.
No.
By the way, if you want to talk about like teams and conferences that have benefited from NIL, because that's like a big topic of conversation. Has any team benefited from NIL as much as like Michigan or as much as Big Ten teams have?
Yeah, Big Ten has become quite the conference. I mean, you got Michigan, who won the national championship. Illinois made it to the Final Four. So you've got quite a – and honestly, the conference tournament, as much as we talked about it didn't matter, that those kind of titles didn't matter. Of all the conference tournaments that you had going on in college basketball right before March Madness, I think the Big Ten's was honestly the most entertaining.
Yeah, it was. Well, because the thing is, the Big Ten, the Big 12s too was also pretty entertaining, though Arizona kind of rolled through that one.
Yeah.
But, the thing with basketball is that, like, I mean, every sport's like this. Any team can beat any team on any day. So that's the reason why, like, it could just really anything can happen. Yeah. And that's the reason. And by the Big 12 this year was definitely the best conference in basketball. But I mean, if not for injuries, I mean, they would have been way above everybody else. I mean, they were also the biggest injury riddled conference.
But I think at the Big Ten, when I'm thinking of that, is just in terms of parity and like who could win it. Because really, Michigan, Illinois, Michigan State, Purdue, since they ended up winning, all of them had a pretty decent shot. You could say that your prediction was one of those four teams that you can throw in one or two others, and like, yeah, that's realistic.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, no, totally. And I think that if you look at like I said, NIL and the transfer portal and everything, it's been Big Ten teams that have benefited a lot, and certain Big 12 teams. Like you get team schools that are better academically, that have higher endowments. Like if you look at like schools like Michigan, Notre Dame, Texas Tech, Houston, those teams have really, really benefited. Those conferences have really benefited from NIL. It's just like this new like landscape. I mean, the thing is, I think it affects football a little more than basketball, because those like SEC schools, that like the SEC is more known for being dominant in football than in basketball. But yeah, I mean, if you look at like the teams that have become more dominant in the past like 4 or 5 years, it's not a coincidence that they're often north of the Mason-Dixon line and also better academically, which usually means higher endowments.
Yeah. Well, I'm very curious to see, Zan and I will talk about it more tomorrow on a live edition of ETV Sports. I know Will kind of touched upon it back on Sunday during his pregame for the national championship, but this SCORE Act that President Trump is trying to push through, which would I'm not mistaken, put a little more of the limitations, try to bring things back to where things used to be and away from, in the words that you and the other Forever Power 5 hosts like to say, talk about how college sports have become the wild, wild west, trying to limit that and limit the time of transfer portal, I think. I'm curious to see how that's going to take a role in college sports if that passes.
Yeah, I mean, the only issue is that it's an executive order, so the next guy could just come in and just revoke it. I mean, that's the problem with executive orders. Like the president just says, "I'm making an order," and then the next guy can just come in and be like, "Yeah, we're not doing that anymore." So, like, that's a little. I don't know. Like, I just think that's not really necessarily the best. Like,
I know, no, but it's like, but if you're going on that path, it's like, okay, we're wild, wild west. Okay, no, we're not going to be anymore. And then let's say the next president comes in, and all of a sudden it's screw that, and now we're the wild, wild west again.
I mean, I think some of this stuff, though, even though like it's not the best process, I think some of the stuff is actually very good. I think national registry for agents for NIL deals is a good thing. You don't want like that's been a bit of an issue in the NIL, is that like players are not having like they have like some players have like these fugazi agents that really just are not qualified to be agents. I mean, I think that's good. So I think some of this stuff is fairly good. I mean, the whole 5-year eligibility limit and cap transfers at one per. I don't know about the capping transfers part, but I think that part's a little complicated. But I think some of the stuff I think would actually be pretty good.
Wait, so in terms of, you mentioned the limits, so we can't have a Trinidad Chambliss situation again?
Yeah, but it's not just Trinidad Chambliss. It's also Stetson Bennett and, a whole lot of other players that are just in. Now, one thing I think they shouldn't allow, like, which I think the NCAA is going to do this in basketball, is that if a player declares for the draft, you can't then go back to college. That's completely absurd. And it didn't just happen this year. It happened at Baylor, and it happened in the middle of the season. Like, how is it fair for a college team to then get a guy who entered the draft in the middle of the season?
So basically, it's no takesy backsies.
Right, and that's how it should be. That's how it should be.
Once you say draft, that's it.
Yeah. Although, like, I don't like calling the NIL the Wild Wild West because everybody else and their mother is also saying that. It's just copying what everybody else is saying. But yeah, I mean, it is a little bit like that. Can we talk about this? Apparently the NCAA is considering finalizing March Madness, the NCAA tournament, expanding to 76 teams.
Yes. Oh, I really want to talk about this.
Because 68 teams really just wasn't enough. We needed to have an Auburn team with a losing record in there. That would have been a lot better for the tournament. This, to me, I really hope doesn't happen. I think there is a tendency for people to think more is always better. And sometimes in sports, less is more. I think the 12-team playoff is too much. I think in the NBA, too many teams can make the playoffs to the point where the regular season matters too little, especially when you're in the Eastern Conference. And the tournament is one of those things where, look, sports fans are full of grievances. Sports fans are more obsessed with grievances than like old people in retirement homes. Like, sports fans complain about everything. And the NCAA tournament, the tournament is the only thing that sports fans almost universally love and don't complain about at all. And you want to change it? Like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Well, let me explain for those who didn't hear it. And I don't know, maybe you want to get a better picture of this. This comes from Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports. If this idea comes to fruition, the first 4 round, where you usually see those 11 and 16 teams who are on the bubble fighting it out for the last spots in the 64, that's going to become a new opening round that would feature 24 teams, so 12 games played between that Tuesday and Wednesday. Those 12 winners would then join the other 52 in the tournament.
So 12 games between 24 teams.
Right. So basically, if you're the 53rd seed, if you're the 53rd team, you don't go to the 64 team. You got to play in the opening round, or what was the first four?
Okay, so it's going to. Okay, so
the first four is basically going to become the first four is basically going to become the first 24.
Okay. I understand it a little more now.
Yeah, but I think it's stupid because just imagine you're team number 53 on the list. In most circumstances, like in how the tournament has been for years now, for a couple of decades now, you make the NCAA tournament. You're playing that opening round. You're playing in March Madness. And I say that because there are people who look at the first four round, that Tuesday and Wednesday night, and say, I don't count that. To me, the tournament starts on Thursday. Imagine now you're the 53rd team. You get placed in one of those play-in games and you lose. It's like WTF. Like you could have been in the March Madness for years, and now all of a sudden, because they want to expand this, it's like no. And the other thing is, as somebody who loves to fill out a bracket every year, I don't know, it just doesn't make sense to me to say we're going to expand the tournament to 76 teams, but then 12 of those slots are going to have the slash with the two teams there because of the opening rounds, like you see with the first four.
Yeah.
Like, it makes no sense to me.
Yeah, 76 teams is too much.
I agree, Christy.
Yeah, we all agree. Most people seem to agree that 76 is too many.
But it's going to happen.
It looks like it will, because everything needs to expand. Nothing is ever enough. That's the problem. I think it's a bit of a business thing. Like, look, yes, it has to do with money. The 82 games in the NBA, like at this rate, everybody knows 82 games over the course of the season, which is like, what is it, 9 months, if I'm doing the math right? Everybody knows it's too much because players are like load management players,
that's not including how the two finalists for the Emirates Cup tournament play an extra game. That's not counting how we have the play-in tournament now before the actual playoffs start. But it goes to, we kind of talk about this, as much as I hate it, it goes to actually something we talked about recently on Lounge about how these sports leagues are turning to the streaming services. And I said, well, you can hate it, but it's going to happen because of business and money. And the same thing happens with expansion. Think about it. The NFL went from 12 teams to 14 teams for the playoffs 4 or 5 years ago. Major League Baseball, before all this talk about the CBA and the current stresses that we have on us as baseball fans, one of the things they were talking about was potentially bringing the MLB playoffs to 16 teams. That was a talk that could have happened with one of the CBAs. I mean, the last CBA, we went from, 10 to 12? And there were concerns that, what we saw with the COVID era with the 16 teams that year might have been a test for what it could be afterwards. And you know what? We're going to hate it, but it's going to bring more money into these owners and these teams. So, of course, they're going to go with it. And it's the same thing here with March Madness. More teams, more viewership. Obviously, that means more March Madness. Obviously, if they're all the businesses, the networks, the organizations, they're going to go for it.
Yeah. I mean, and
as much as it dilutes the tournament.
Yeah. I mean, and by the way, sometimes expansion I think is good. I think in football, the expansion has been good. I think small levels of expansion can be good in some circumstances, but there's already 68 teams. I mean, come on, give me a break. I mean, how much more are you going to expand it? And also, like, there's going to be the same issue that we have now, which is the teams yelling and screaming about how they're not getting in. That's just going to happen with the 77th best team. And it's going to be even more pathetic. It's going to be like, oh, you are at the bottom of your conference. Like, you're one of the worst teams in your conference, and you're complaining that you're not in the tournament.
Now, I think it's good. A good example of that would be Auburn this year, because Auburn just talking about how they should have been in the tournament. And then, you know what? They went out and made a case for themselves by winning the NIT.
Yeah.
And that's the another thing that concerns me about this. you've seen a lot of teams recently, for whatever reason that baffles you, Nick Morgeson, these teams who have been rejecting the NIT. Like, hey, if we don't get the NCAA, it's NCAA or bust. Because those lower tournaments, you can say what you want about the CIT or the Crown or whatever it is now, but but the NIT is going to be included in that because those tournaments are going to be suffering and diluting from this expansion as well.
Yeah, I think more teams would end up might end up turning down the NIT, and because everybody knows the NIT is like it's a consolation prize. Like teams that expect more are just so demoralized. It's like when Notre Dame turned down the bowl game. It's like that's what the NIT is turning into, like bowl games in college football,
which as much as I love March Madness, I love just seeing all the madness that goes on at all the different levels. I mean, look, the NCAA Division III tournament just ended. It was at the University of Mary Washington in Fredericksburg. Won it on a freaking buzzer beater.
Yeah. Of course I love watching all of it. Now, it's hard to like focus on the NIT when the tournament's going on. Like,
right. But like you said, is it a consolation prize? Yes. But at the same rate, you get a taste of postseason basketball.
Correct. So, yes. Yeah.
So that's what it's like. It's like getting a bowl game, and I think actually Notre Dame was a perfect example because when I've talked about it, maybe a month ago when it was a big story, I forget it was on Lounge or Sports or something, but you could have had, what was it? Notre Dame was offered the Pop-Tarts Bowl, and you laugh, but Pop-Tarts Bowl, which has already had a rise in popularity, and their opponent would have been BYU. The two teams who were probably going to be on the bubble left out of that. Like, you could have had a fantastic bowl game because of that.
Yeah, and the thing with bowl games is that, like, the one thing that's different between bowl game, I mean, it sounds like a joke because it's called the Pop-Tart Bowl, but it's not actually.
That's the sponsorship part of it.
Right, that's just the sponsorship. You're exactly right. And also you have to remember, like, we're old enough to remember when bowl games really meant something. Yeah. And now bowl games outside of the playoffs don't mean anything because of the expansion. Like, I remember when Penn State played USC in the Rose Bowl that 1 year, and USC won that game. It was Sam Darnold was on that team, Saquon Barkley, those guys were playing. And, like, I was just thinking that nowadays, like now, and this was a little less than 10 years ago, now if that game happened, Saquon, Darnold, all the best players on both teams would have sat out because it was a bowl game that wasn't in the playoffs. But like now things are just so different. Mm-hmm. And in Notre Dame's case, it was like they were supposed to be in the playoffs, and then the committee just like without any actual logic compared to like relative to what they did before, just jumped them. It was like in some way, like they felt that they had gotten screwed. Yeah. And that was the reason they turned it down.
Side story. I needed to relax one night recently, so I actually popped in an old NCAA football game. I was laughing because I'm looking at all the old bowl games. I'm like, wow, this was when the committee was actually just choosing two teams to be in a national championship. But I'm also old enough to remember, I think it was USC and Texas who were playing the first designated national championship, because I'm old enough to still remember somewhat when the bowl games would rotate, which was the national championship.
Yeah, there wasn't even a real national champ, and sometimes they were like co-national champions.
Yeah,
it was such an absurd system. And now I'm not suggesting we go back to that. Like, I didn't like that system either. Right. And I didn't even really like the 14 playoff. I don't think the 14 playoff was really enough either. Like in today's era, I just don't think a 14 playoff would work.
No,
like based on how.
So you're of the idea of the 8.
Yeah, I think that would be better. I think an 18 playoff would be better, or even if if you were to expand the playoff, not expand it, but there's certain things I don't like about the college football playoff, which is I don't like automatic bids or anything like that. Like that to me, I don't like. I would be in favor of maybe having a play-in tournament for some teams that are on the bubble. But I mean, overall though, I've changed my mind a little bit on playoff expansion, because I used to be so dead set against it, and now my view is all right, it's not so bad, I don't think.
Yeah.
But in terms of this, I think this is just it's ridiculous. I also think it will actually benefit mid-major schools a little more than Power 5 schools, possibly, because I think they're going to they're going to end up putting in more mid-major schools that really just have no business.
I would really hope. I would rather see, if we're actually going to go to the expansion system, then I would rather see a strong performing mid-major who fell just short, maybe the semifinals or finals of their conference tournament, versus a Power 5 school or Power 4 school who just finished with just above a 500 record.
I think it depends on context. It depends on context. Like, I would rather just take the team that is probably better. If that's the mid-major school, okay, fine. If that's the Power 5 school, also fine, because there are like some of these conferences are very stacked. If you look at the SEC last year, every team got in. So some years conferences can be very stacked. I like automatic bids in college basketball because you have
so many slots to fill.
Right. Excuse me. But also, it's like first of all, when you have 68 teams, it's impossible to make a logical argument for who the top 68 teams are. I can tell you my top 12 teams in college football every year. Rationally, I could not tell you the top 68 teams in college basketball. Jay Billis couldn't do it either. Seth Greenberg couldn't do it. Nobody could do it. But also, if a team wins their conference in the mid-major and they're a Division I team, you can at least logically conclude that team is probably a top 68 team. Nobody thinks James Madison or Tulane were top 12 teams or anything close to that. Nobody actually thought that. And even the people who are cheering it on wouldn't ever tell you that because they know how stupid that is.
Hofstra's still a top 12 team in my heart.
Right. They're like, well, I'm glad they got a chance. Well, do you think they're anything close to a top 12 team? They're not going to say that. Like that's the difference between football and basketball.
That's true. Very true. Shall we talk about, speaking of March Madness, should we talk about the other side of March Madness? And it's a shame that the women's side.
The women's side. Yeah, Dawn Staley is fighting with Geno Auriemma. So I was a little confused by this because it sounds like Geno Auriemma was upset about something.
Yeah. And first of all, it's a shame that the women's Final Four kind of got overshadowed by this. Because you had a strong performance from UCLA, which, by the way, I did not realize that UCLA women didn't win a March Madness until until the one this year.
I didn't either because I don't really follow women's basketball very much. A little more than I used to, but yeah, I didn't know that.
Apparently, trying to get the full picture of this, but apparently there were some things that happened during the UConn South Carolina semifinal game that Geno was not happy with. Sarah Strong didn't get a foul call despite the fact that her jersey was ripped, and Strong later said, though, that she accidentally ripped her own jersey. And then apparently he was just very frustrated with, I guess, the lack of calls on South Carolina and South Carolina's coaching. And apparently Geno kind of took it out at the head. Absolutely. Congratulations to UCLA. But apparently Geno took it out on Dawn during the handshake line, which ultimately didn't seem to be much of a handshake line and more like a confrontation.
More of the confrontation line.
And Auriemma basically released a statement kind of regretting his actions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. And then Dawn Staley, there was a video of her saying, "I was going to beat his ass." I think is what she said. But it sounds like Geno Auriemma started it. Like that's what it sounds like, from what I know. And based on everything you say, I agree. I think it was really dumb. Although it looks like Auriemma kind of started it. Like it doesn't sound like Dawn Staley was the one who started.
No, absolutely not. And Geno, and I said this to Count last night on Lounge too, when you are a coach for a very prestigious college basketball program like UConn, and you are, you're a legendary coach. You are basically a role model figure for a figure for a lot of these, players that come through your system. For the current group of young women who you are coaching right now, you are expected to act like a role model. You are expected to talk about losing with grace, having dignity. He didn't show that on the handshake line. That wasn't. So, it's a very bad look. At the same time, and then the two ended up barking at each other, just a whole loose of words, and it was just. And yeah, she did say, "I will be Geno's ass." She could be heard saying twice. Yeah, no, but I get it. Like I get it. You know,
But that was
the
also
emotion.
after the confrontation, so it's just like
Right. I get the emotion. You came so close, and to lose in the close, heartbreaking fashion you did, yeah, it's gonna eat at you. At the same time, you have to time and place. There's a time and a place for everything. And in public, at the end of the game, at the handshake line is not the place for it.
yeah, do it in the locker room. I mean, they don't share a lot.
But I mean, like, wait. But I mean, like, wait, and like you could wait till afterwards, and then have a talk in a more dignified and respectful manner instead of just shouting at. Like,
also, if he was mad at the refs, what does that have to do with Dawn Staley? She's not a ref.
I think he might have also. Hold on, let me get the fuller picture here. But Dawn Staley said. But Dawn Staley said that. But yeah, she was afraid that there was some sort of double standard, and said that something about Staley's behavior during the ranting and raving at officials.
Oh, so Geno Auriemma said that?
He lamented the lack of fouls against South Carolina, and said Staley, quote, rants and raves at the officials and, quote, calls the referees some names you don't want to hear. So it seems like he had a lot of problems with the way supposedly that Staley acts on the sideline, and like I said, the lack of calls, concerns about a double standard because it's South Carolina.
That doesn't make sense. He's UConn.
Staley versus Auriemma at WrestleMania. You know what? WrestleMania could use a couple more cards, a couple more matches for it. Yeah, Staley said that Geno's the one who initiated the conversation, and she didn't want to really talk about it because she was focused on the fact that her team won. Staley did say earlier today that she wants to move on from it, and she hopes that fans are able to move on from it too. And honestly, the man apologized. She seems to want to forgive and forget. So this almost becomes a non-story as of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a story.
It's a story, but it's not one that needs to linger for 2 weeks.
Yes, yeah, I kind of agree. Also, an actual big story. Okay. Mike Malone is getting hired by
this UNC. Was awesome.
Interesting hire. The former head coach, I mean, he was fired by the Nuggets in what was it, the year after or 2 years after?
25, I think it was last year he got fired.
Was it last year? It feels like it was longer ago. But
when he got fired?
Okay, yeah. It was last year, 2025, he got fired. So it was about a year ago, I think, that he got fired. It was before the playoffs. And no, you're right. And that was only 2 years after winning after winning the NBA Finals.
Yeah, and I've been on the record that the NBA coaching job is probably the most. It's the least job security as a head coach of all the 4 major sports.
I disagree, actually. Really? College football coaches.
I said 4 major sports, not college.
Oh, I'm sorry. So professional sports.
Professional sports, yes.
Yeah, no, because I would argue that in college football, I mean, guys get fired for some really absurd reasons. That's why they have such big buyouts, because the job, there's no security at all. Like that, they need a lot of protection. But yeah, on some level, I think that's true. I think that might actually be true. But I think
it just deals with the fact that the NBA is a player-driven league.
Yeah, it depends on the circumstances. Like if you look at a guy like Tom Thibodeau last year, Like Tom Thibodeau, objectively speaking, overachieved with the Knicks.
Yeah.
Like that's just a fact. There's no argument against that. They were not supposed to make the conference finals, and they lost to the Pacers, who were just a better team than them. It was 2 weeks after Knick fans were celebrating in the streets, and Tom Thibodeau still got fired. I mean, that is just like, I mean, come on. Like that doesn't, like that has a lot to do. I think there was a lot of politics involved in that.
Yeah.
And that's a real thing in basketball. Now, when it comes to him being able to coach UNC, there's a few things. One is that no matter who the head coach is at UNC will always have an advantage because they're a big brand. So you could get like you could get Isaiah Thomas as the head coach at UNC, and we all know how great of a head coach Isaiah Thomas was.
No. Don't trigger those flashbacks.
I don't know. Think of your. Wait, actually, I got one. I got a good example. Darvin Ham. You get Darvin Ham as the head coach at UNC. Pick your favorite terrible NBA head coach. You could have him be a head coach at UNC, and UNC will still have a big advantage because they have the brand of UNC. Yeah. So that's one thing that Mike Malone has going for him, going to coach UNC. It's what Hubert Davis had going for him. He wasn't a great coach, but he was at UNC, so he was still able to make the finals. It's very unlikely that the program is going to tank if you hire the wrong guy. The interesting, so looking at Mike Malone's career, he was an assistant coach at Manhattan and Providence and Oakland as an assistant. So that's the last time, and that was back in 2001. Mm-hmm. So it's been 25 years since he's coached a college team. I think that's a little bit of a concern because he really effectively has no experience coaching college, and coaching the NBA and coaching college
two different things.
Very, very different.
Yeah. At the same rate, he has to adjust his style, but at the same rate, I think he does bring a lot of experience and recent championship experience to the minds of all these young men that he's going to be coaching. So yeah, he is a fountain of wealth and a fountain of information that these kids can benefit from. It's just a matter of, can he adjust his style to young men who are still developing their game, a game where you're playing 2 20-minute halves instead of 4 50-minute quarters or 4 12-minute quarters. Like it is, and it's a different pace of game. Hopefully he's able to make that transition because, like you said, it's been 25 years since he's been able to do that.
Yeah, and he wasn't. And by the way, he was an assistant.
He was an assistant, right? So he didn't even get he didn't have all the responsibilities on his shoulders.
Yeah, and also and the thing is, I'm very adamant about this, that coaching in college is harder than coaching in the pros because, or at least for the most part, because in college you have a much greater responsibility than you do in the pros. Like most NBA and NFL head coaches don't construct the rosters. Very few of them do. Yeah. In college, you're responsible. You're basically the head coach and you're the GM. So there's extra things that you have to do as a college head coach that you don't have to do as an NBA head coach. Like Mike Malone was not the GM of the Nuggets. So that's going to be an interesting thing to see whether or not he can adjust to that. Now, it's a bigger concern. It would be a bigger concern if he was older. He's 54. So by coaching standards, he's still fairly young. And one thing we notice about head coaches is that when they're older, they tend to get less innovative. I mean, Nick Saban was always a very innovative head coach at Alabama, but the NIL era came along and he was like, I'm done with this, because he's 75 years old. He's like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. Mike Malone is still young, so he maybe would still adjust to the new system, the new era of college sports still, which I don't think is true about somebody like Belichick. Belichick is in his 70s. He's much older. He's not going to be as innovative. So I think that could be a difference. And the other thing is, Mike Malone just being a championship head coach does attract a lot of recruits. That will always, even if he's not a good college coach, which we don't know yet, even if he's not, just the fact that his name
the
is Mike
kids have their
Malone.
finger. The kids have their finger on the pulse in the sports
Right,
world, especially with basketball. They hear Mike Malone, they're like, "Oh, Denver Nuggets, Jokic, they just won the championship a few years ago."
Yeah, exactly. And also, like, we don't know how much, like, did they win because of Mike Malone? Did they win because, I don't know, they had the best player in the world, the MVP? I mean, like, it's hard to just credit all that to Mike Malone anyway. I mean, I give him some credit, but I mean, come on, like, he just had a great player.
Mhm.
So, but yes, I do think that does matter when it comes to how good he'll be at UNC. Now, I'm surprised though that they went this route. I think I thought maybe they would try to hire somebody like Bruce Pearl, because I really thought that Bruce Pearl would likely go back to go.
It was a name that was being floated around.
Well, here's the thing: Bruce Pearl has a history of success. He hasn't won anything, a championship or anything, but he has a history of success at Auburn and at Tennessee, and also Bruce Pearl seems to like coaching in the South. He likes that. He seems to like coaching in that region for some reason. But I don't know. Maybe he didn't want to. Maybe it's more fun being a commentator.
I mean, I always say it's very tough. If you get a lot of money, God bless you. But sometimes it's very tough to, when you have that less responsibility and you still have a good, salary, and all you got to do is just, do the work of an analyst. Not saying that that's not hard work, but it's different work.
It's not as hard as coaching a college team.
Yeah, it's not. It's having that coaching responsibility and just having the understanding that you make a wrong move, you could be fired. It's a lot less stressful to go into the booth and actually give your own thoughts and analysis when you have the experience that a head coach has had.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong.
Right.
Like, nobody's going to fire you if you get your picks wrong for the national championship. At worst, they mock you on Twitter, but like nothing that bad is going to happen. Like I'm sure he doesn't care about being mocked on Twitter. And also, he can talk about whatever he wants. He goes on the news all the time and talks about the war in Iran. And it's like, he couldn't do that if he was the head coach at a college. He wouldn't have time. Like, it would obviously be much more problematic if that were to happen for a bunch of reasons. Like, so he has a lot more. Like, he can kind of do whatever he wants as a commentator. And also, like, television is very like rehearsed. Everything is set up for you. All he has to do is look good on camera, or okay on camera, I guess, and like give his analysis.
And just talk.
Right. That's all he needs to do. That is. Wait, and by the way, college basketball season is not long. He's not even doing that all year round. Like,
it's what? It's late October, early November to start of April.
Yeah, like yeah, exactly. So like, it's just gonna, like, this life might just be, and he's like 65, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So he's a little older, not too old to coach, but a little older. So maybe he wants to like relax a little more. Like, that's what happened. Like Urban Meyer, great college football coach, but he was obviously a little done with coaching. Like, sometimes that does happen.
Mm-hmm.
With college coaches. I mean, Rick Pitino, I give a lot of credit because he's been coaching for like 50 years straight with like no breaks, not like a single year off. Like he was the head coach at Louisville, won a national championship at Kentucky. And because because of the hooker scandal at Louisville, he had to go to Greece to coach in Greece. Like, you would think that coaching in Greece would be beneath him in his mind.
Right, but you know what? That's all he could do when he had a whole scandal. But credit to him, he somehow survived scandal and rebuilt himself at Iona and at St. John's.
Yeah, so like, yeah, no, he absolutely did, and that's how he was able to. And he made this. And by the way, I thought it was a little ridiculous that he had to go away as long as he did. I mean, Chris Beer was in trouble for domestic violence and just went to a different team. And like Rick Pitino had to go overseas and then Iona, and then before he ended up coming back to major college basketball. I thought it was.
And by the way, of all schools to end up, maybe I say this because I went to the school of a Metro Atlantic rival, but freaking Iona, who of course goes to March Madness as the MAAC representative almost every year.
Yeah. And like, yeah. And like, the thing is, it just, I never really followed Iona basketball much. I followed it a little bit when Rick Pitino was the head coach, only because it's Rick Pitino. But all right,
still my favorite Rider basketball memory.
Yeah.
Rider beat Rick Pitino in the 2022 conference.
I guess you feel about Iona the same way I feel about Fairfield U.
And like, Fairfield's another Metro Atlantic rival.
I hate Fairfield. I always root against Fairfield U. All right, wait. Can we talk about the Lakers a little bit?
Yes, let's do it.
Lakers, they're riddled with injuries. I think their new logo should be like the wheelchair logo, like that.
No, it should be an ambulance siren logo.
Yeah. Like, I guess nobody on that team can stay healthy. First, I want to talk about this. LeBron is in trouble. He's in a bit of trouble because he doesn't like traveling to Memphis. I never thought that this would be much of. I can't believe that this is as much of a story as it is. I think it's only a story because LeBron said it. And here's my thing. LeBron has been traveling the country for more than 20 years. You think that there might not be some cities that he doesn't love traveling to? You think he's going to love every city he's ever traveled to? I mean, the way I see it is that, if you have a lot of it's one thing for somebody who's never been there to comment on it. But he has experienced it and says he doesn't like traveling to Memphis. And I can think of maybe one or two reasons why he doesn't like traveling to Memphis.
Have you been to Memphis?
I've never been to Memphis. I know a few things about Memphis. I know there's a lot of crime in Memphis. That I know is true. I don't know anything about the downtown areas or what there is to do there, but I do know a few things about Memphis.
Okay.
I don't know if you've been there, maybe for a UFC event.
No, I've never been there.
What I do know is that, and he also, like he said, he'd rather be in Nashville than Memphis. I've never been to either city. As far as I know,
I would love to go to Tennessee at one point or another. Just I've never had the opportunity to.
But the way I see it is that LeBron gave an authentic answer, an authentic human answer. And that's what I want from athletes. Like, I remember, like, people often, like, rag on LeBron for giving just honest answers. And I think that's good. Memphis, I've never had it. Look, barbecue everywhere down south is amazing. I was in Texas. They had amazing barbecue. They have amazing barbecue everywhere.
Amazing.
Right. Everywhere down south, they have amazing barbecue. But my thing is, people always get mad at LeBron for giving honest answers. Like, I remember, I think it was this year, or maybe it was last year, when he said something about playing on Christmas and was just like, yeah, it's a little like, he said something like, part of me doesn't like being away from my family or whatever. And, like, I don't know why people were mad at him for that, because that's just an honest answer. Like,
but because it's LeBron James.
Right.
Sorry, Nick Ferguson, if you're watching this.
Right, like that's the thing. Like, it's just like why do people get mad at athletes sometimes for just giving honest answers, especially when that's the whole point of these interviews, is to get answers out of them. Like, he also said he doesn't like traveling to Milwaukee. He said the same thing. So I don't know. Like, you don't think if you were to travel the country for 20 years,
there's going to be places that you like, and there's going to be places you don't like.
Are you going to love every city you're ever going to travel to? And I just don't fully get what the big deal is with that. I mean, Nashville, from his experience, he enjoys Nashville more than Memphis. It's like, okay, like, he's not wrong. He's entitled to his opinion. Like, I don't get why that's such a big deal.
Yeah, no, for real, for sure.
I mean, like, I don't travel enough to really have strong opinions about cities. But like I said, I do know a few things about Memphis, and I do know a few things about Nashville. And it seems like a lot more people want to travel to Nashville than Memphis. That just seems to be the case. Like, I know a lot of young people, and a lot of bachelor and bachelorette trips go to Nashville. Yeah. I don't know anybody who travels to Memphis for a bachelor.
Nashville is also just a legendary music town.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I was just like, okay, he gave an honest answer, and people are just like super defensive over Memphis. I was like, all right. I don't know.
Memphis has its music too, but Nashville's kind of the city where you have the music plus the nightlife and all of that.
Right. It's like, yeah. And by the way, I hate traveling to Long Island. It's nothing against Long Island, but I could get there quicker in a horse and buggy sometimes. Like, that's Like that's just how I feel.
Like, as far as this goes, though, the whole idea with the Laker injury,
the injuries, yeah,
the injuries with the Lakers. You know, I mean, Luka being hurt, it depends how long Luka is hurt for. Because if he's hurt to the point where he'll come back during the first round of playoffs, okay, that might be survivable. If he's gone to the point where it's going to be past the first round, there was some wild Twitter rumor about him going outside the country, because outside the country, instead of here in the United States, some of them have the stem cell based surgeries. If he needs one of those, we're probably not seeing him. And if that's the case, the Lakers are on the ropes pretty badly. Now, obviously this is a live stream, so we don't have to say as at the time we're recording this, but last night, I believe Denver won their game, so Denver jumped LA for the 3 seed in the West. So right now, LA is a 4. And that would mean that LA plays Houston. And I debated this with a couple of our guys here at the network. If you're the Lakers, Houston, Minnesota, and Denver, of those 3 teams, I think I would want to play Houston, because as much as Minnesota has less wins than those teams, they've had the Lakers' number in recent seasons.
Yeah.
And then Denver, I mean, they still got Jokic, and they still can be a powerhouse. Houston, yeah, they got KD, but, Houston, with the exception of the legendary teams from the 90s, Houston has had a history of choking when it matters. And you don't need – we always Nick Morgan and I would always make the joke of big playoff LeBron who turns it on to another level. Yeah. He obviously can't do that as much now as his older self in a league that's, got a lot more talent around it now. But if you match up with Houston, I think that's a survivable matchup where I don't know if they can beat them, but I think they can go at least the distance with Houston. The problem is if they were to somehow get past that, either San Antonio or Oklahoma City is going to sweep them in the second round.
Yeah, and also the thing with the Lakers is just from the way that they're built. I mean, look, this happened at a really bad time because Luka has been amazing. Like it was in his child custody era, which is what right after his divorce, he just was amazing. So that's what made it so bad. But also, like, the issue with the Lakers is just the way they're built. They can only win, like, they don't play any defense. LeBron, like, first of all, LeBron is 41. He can't consistently play defense.
This is not the LeBron of 2016 or 2006. This is LeBron of 2026.
Right. And Luka was never a good defensive player. He was always a bit of a liability on defense. And so just the way this team is built, they're built on offense. And the only way they can actually win games is if they put up a lot of points.
They put up 130 points in a game, basically.
Right. And you're not going to be able, like, teams that are built that way don't win championships. You need to have some defense, just like you're not going to have a team that only plays defense and can't score is never going to win a championship game. So that's obviously the issue right now with LeBron and Luka. I mean, Luka's a great player, but do they complement each other's skills very much? I would say they probably don't.
I feel like this is a superhero and sidekick situation, a Batman and Robin. And LeBron's the Robin.
And yeah, absolutely. And now Austin Reeves is also hurt. I mean, this is the first time we've ever seen LeBron basically play the Robin role. Austin Reeves is out for the rest of the regular season. I guess the only hope that the Lakers have is that
these guys come back for the playoffs.
Well, right. And assuming that and you know what? Even with these injuries, the Lakers can still make the playoffs. Like, they're still, like, they're the fourth.
The teams are set. And they're going to manage and they managed to avoid the play-in tournament. That's pretty much set. At this point, it's, are they a 3, 4, 5, and 6? And who are they playing in the first round between Houston, Minnesota, and Denver?
Yeah, I mean, are they officially set?
The teams are set. It's all about seeding and who's going into, I think, the play-in tournament. Or there's one slot on the west side left to determine for the play-in tournament. But it seems likely that, or more than likely, that it's going to be either Houston, Minnesota, or Denver that LA plays in the first round. Right now they're the 4th seed. They would play the Rockets, and LA would have home court advantage.
Okay.
At this point, if you're LA with the situation that you're in, you might as well just play to maintain the 4th seed.
Right. And they could. Yeah, that's the only because even if at worst they could drop to maybe the 6th seed. Like that's
Correct.
the absolute worst.
Correct. And they could usurp the Denver for the 3 seed again. But then you're playing Minnesota, and Minnesota by record is the worst of those 4 teams. But like I said, in the playoffs recent past, Minnesota's had their number.
Yeah, for sure. And he is, and even if my issue with Luka is that even if Luka comes back, like, will he be what he was? Like, if with a hamstring, with the issue that he had, like,
definitely not going to be 100%.
Although, like you said, when you talk about him going to Europe to get stem cell treatment that he can't get here, maybe that means he will be back sooner because he's getting better treatment than most players are getting. So that could be it too. I mean, the question is, why couldn't he get it here?
I don't know. I thought there was what's his name from WWE, Rey Mysterio. I think he had to go. If I'm not mistaken, he had to go to Mexico or something to get the stem cell treatment.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know the reason why they have to go to. Okay, so I'm looking at it on Yahoo.com, and stem cells can. I'm trying to look at. I guess it's illegal here. I guess that's the only reason why.
Yeah. So Rey Mysterio, the legendary WWE star, he had to go to Cancun for his.
Oh, so just like the Yankees last year.
So I guess this is a situation, where these athletes who are getting hurt, in order to get the stem cell treatments, they got to go outside the U.S.
Yeah, I think, which, says, it seems like that's happening. It's like going to Turkey to get the hair transplants, So they have to go, they have to go to Europe to get treatment. Like, that sucks. Like that they have to go, but look,
but that's an issue that goes past sports. That goes into political issues as well.
Yeah, because I think that type of treatment is banned here.
It reminds me of, I think there was a whole Family Guy clip of it or sketch of it where Peter goes into a stem cell place and comes out normal. He's like, why are we not funding this?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So now I think that if you look at the NBA, I don't think any team in the East has a real chance to actually win it all. I mean, if you look at the standings in the Western Conference, I would be less surprised if teams 1 through 6 were to win it all than if any team in the East won it all. I would be less. I would honestly be less. I don't think the Knicks can win it all. I mean, the Pistons, I think, are too young and inexperienced. The Knicks, I don't think, can win it all, largely for similar reasons that the Lakers can't win it all, which is just how that team is built. I don't think the Knicks have a championship caliber roster at all. I think
they're close, but not yet.
Yes. I think the Knicks are close. Oh, you're talking about the Knicks or the Pistons?
Knicks.
Okay. Yeah, because the Knicks, I think the Pistons are closer than the Knicks are.
I honestly for both teams, I think they're both close, but not yet. There's still a couple of players away.
I think the Knicks would have had to are going to have to make a move. I think eventually they're probably going to move on from Cat.
I think they have to.
They're going to have to. Look, I like Cat. I think he's a good player. But ultimately, I don't think a roster with this.
He can't go down as he does, and he can't get into foul trouble as he does.
His defense isn't good, which is especially not good when you're talking about a center.
Right.
He gets into stupid foul trouble. And by the way, Brunson also gets into stupid foul trouble. The biggest problem with Brunson and Cat is that they have the same weaknesses, and those are your two best players. I mean, neither one of them are good defensively, and they both.
And at that point, it becomes your entire team's weakness.
Yeah, so, and like that, I just think is going to be an issue. I think they're going to eventually have to move on from him. I wanted to see them maybe get Giannis, but sure enough, that didn't happen.
And well, Giannis is a whole other different story.
Well, there's a lot going on with Giannis right now too. Like,
Yeah.
he like didn't what? So the
The
Bucks,
NBA is investigating the whole idea of the load management for him
but
because
the Bucks refused to let him play.
yeah, so the theory that's going on around here is that the Bucks supposedly are trying to hold him off or use the load manager system as much as possible. That way he's healthy next season. That way they can trade him at next season's deadline.
Yeah, yeah. Like I think that makes a certain amount of sense.
It makes sense, but if being so open about it, well, obviously that's going to go against the whole load management problem that's going on in the NBA. But I kind of said it last night talking about this with Callan. The NBA is kind of at fault for it, for not acting on the load management situation sooner, being a little lax on it, and now the really stupid anti-tanking measures that they're trying to put in, which I think could just worsen the tanking that's going
The
on.
thing with tanking in the NBA is that I think people overreact to it a little bit, in the sense that, like, I think load management is a much more interesting conversation to me and more important than tanking, because the teams that are tanking, it's not like it's the best teams that people are going to see that are tanking. It is the Wizards and the Nets, and it's like teams that really just suck.
Well, I told Callan this last night. You have three different kinds of teams. You have the teams that are genuinely bad for one reason or another.
Mhm.
Like, I would put the Pacers in that, because the Pacers, once they lost Halliburton, that was bad. That was horrific. So there's an understandable reason. Then you have teams that are just bad consistently for years. And at some point, you mentioned the Wizards. In baseball, you could say the Rockies or the A's, where you just put your eyebrow up. It's like, why is that? Why can't you get over the hump? And then you have teams that just could be mediocre, but then just choose to be bad for the sake of, I want the pick.
Yeah, I guess that's
the lines between those three groups are getting a little blurrier.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, I think that's true. And I guess that last part is a little more of a concern. But I think that if teams have a choice between like trying to get into the playoffs, which a lot of teams, certainly in the East, can do with losing records, like less than mediocre teams, and the first pick, I think most teams would rather try and make the playoffs for the most part.
You would hope.
I would hope. I would hope
the integrity for that.
But like, I just don't care as much, because when the Wizards and the Nets are tanking, and a lot of those teams that really just aren't good anyway, and aren't really like those aren't the teams to see. Like, I don't care as much when that happens, as opposed to like load management, where if, say, the Lakers play the Knicks or something and LeBron is out because of load management or something like that. Like, yeah, that's more of a concern. It's like when the Spurs played the Miami Heat, and Greg Popovich like benched all of his starters in a nationally televised game. Something like that is a much bigger issue than a random Tuesday night Nets and Wizards.
I mean, obviously, because you have other stakeholders like the networks who expect big audiences.
Right.
They're obviously going to be involved in that. I think there was one Knicks game I watched during, I think it was the 2012 season, where they beat the Heat, but the Heat didn't play like LeBron or D Wade or some of them. And obviously that's going to be a concern. And the other thing on that note is, if you eliminate the load management problem, that eliminates some of these different tanking concerns. And if you eliminate that, what Adam Silver has tried recently with the awards that you have to have a certain number of games, it doesn't work. It's not working.
It's also stupid.
And it's stupid, yeah. And if you ask any NBA player, guess what? Championship, individual accomplishment.
Every single one would take a championship.
Right, unless it's, you could maybe debate the MVP, but everything else, championship by a mile.
And also, if you ask NBA fans, that's what they were obsessed with. You could have 9 MVPs, but if you don't win a championship, they're going to hang that over your head.
Right.
So it's like, what are they supposed to do?
Look at Aaron Judge in baseball. 3 MVPs, no World Series.
Right, and he's killed for that. And if he was an NBA player, he'd be killed even worse for that than him being a baseball player.
I mean, at the very least, I guess he has a pennant under his belt, but still.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what people like. That's what fans are obsessed with. Like people talk about that with LeBron's legacy. Like LeBron's criticized for only winning 4 titles. Like that's nothing. Like it's completely ridiculous. So anyway, that's our show this week. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll be back. I'll be back next week with Johnny. That show will be coming out on Wednesday or Thursday. So I'll see you guys then.
Back to normal processes next week.
Yes, back to normal.